Yes.
From the June 21 meeting.
I move to approve the June 21st meeting minutes for volunteer pension board.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any other business before the volunteer pension board?
None this afternoon.
Okay. So we will close that meeting and call the regular North Wacom meeting to order. And we'll have
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll have a roll call. Starting at my
Roll call. Oh, John Crum, sir. Bruce Ansel.
Rich Bosman.
Larry McBail.
William Burnett. John Winchester.
No public comment, I'm assuming.
No.
And we'll move to the consent agenda. And I know there were some questions on consent agenda. All has been answered. Anybody have any issues? Consent agenda?
No.
Questions, okay. Let me read through the amounts, starting with voucher payments. North Wacom Employees Direct Deposit Payroll, $275,720.49. Non-direct, $312. Benefits vouchers, $168,366.54. Monthly expenditures, $55,136.81. Capital projects apparatus, $5,113.26. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimously approved.
I don't think there was a first or second, was there?
No, there was no motion made yet.
What was it?
Motion, discussion, vote, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I got 3 out of 4 steps.
Pretty good. Most. Majority.
All right, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
By.
Second.
Seconded by Larry. All in favor, say aye again.
Aye.
Opposed? It is now passed. All right, any? Go ahead. Dave, I mean, the consent
There,
agenda.
okay, meeting minutes, there we go. All right,
Numero uno.
thank you. We're all firing on all cylinders today.
As they eat.
Must be summer.
All right, do we have any commissioner meeting reports?
I have none.
Anybody?
I missed the all county, I'll take my wife to Europe. Nothing, I'm actually hoping to get to the next, city council meeting.
And just a reminder, if you're gonna miss one of them, let me know and I'll try to make it. If I can.
I can work,
Or
or
Larry.
John's, I can back up.
Okay, good. Nothing from the local, so everything must be fine.
She's smiling.
Legal issues, Rich.
Well, just on that, on the local, so we finally did get our UOP hearing rescheduled. We had it scheduled kind of ironically the day after the mediation was set, which didn't make any sense because then we had to prepare for it. When in fact, it might not be necessary, so we got that moved a month later, which makes a lot of sense. So, mediation is toward the end of September, and then mediation is toward the end of October. Or I'm sorry, the UOP hearing is toward the end, if we need it.
Mediation September 24th, and the hearing is October 22nd.
You're right, I'm sure I wrote that assumption. So, we got a little bit of time yet, but hopefully we get things put to bed in the mediation and we'll be there. That's all I have.
We have some unfinished business. Fire Chief Financial Authority Resolution, 2018.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, at our last month's meeting, we had some discussion with our attorney and amongst the board on
possibility of developing a financial authority document for the fire chief to better outline the fire chief's permissions from the board. And at that time, our district attorney, Rich, said that he would put together kind of not a boilerplate, but a brand new document for us that to look at. And so I sent that to the commissioners a couple weeks ago, just so you can get your eyeballs on it ahead of time. And tonight, I'm hoping that we can have some discussion and put it before you for approval. There's a few discussion points that you probably already are aware of, and that's 2.1.1. There's a monetary number the board will need to discuss that the chief would not be in excess of for awarding a public works contract. And then there's also another area, 2.2, under budget acquisitions, where the chief would exceed an amount authorized by the budgetary line item by a certain percent. So our attorney, I'm sure, can help comment during the discussion on those particular things, or any other topic that comes up in here that the commissioners would like to discuss before considering approval. So with that, I'll leave it to the commission to discuss anything they'd like and ask any questions that they'd like to ask.
Okay, before we get to the two items, the resolution as a whole, everybody read through it, they're okay with that? It's pretty standard.
Pretty standard, it looked pretty standard.
Okay, so then the question is just the two items. So let's start with the 2.1.1, which is the amount that we will authorize the chief to approve without board approval. Open it up to your suggestions. Anything that,
I'd like to ask our attorney if there's several other fire districts in Western Washington that kind of have a standard setup, standard amount. So just look at it.
I don't think so. I don't think there's a standard amount, but so the $20,000 amount that's set forth in 2.1.1 is really it coincides with the amount that the fire district is entitled to go out and do public works without going out to a formal bid process. So the idea is the fire chief ought to be able to do that in terms of running the district, as long as the expenditure is within within the overall budget authority. There might not be a specific line item for that issue, but you know, it's within the budget for the fiscal year. We depend upon the chief to go out and you know, have work done when necessary, and so $20,000 seems to be a reasonable number to go in there. And then the last sentence talks about the chief's authority to execute a public works contract for an item that is identified in a specific budgetary line item. So you've already planned for this. You've already budgeted for it. You've discussed it during the budgetary process. So then the question is, what is the amount that the fire chief can sign a contract for when there's been a specific, you know, authorization of the budget? And my thought there was that when you go over $20,000, but a contract is less than $300,000, you can do what's called a small works roster. And I don't know.
We can maintain a town-equal small work roster.
Perfect. So that's a competitive process. That's not a formal competitive process. So you don't have to do a formal advertisement in the newspaper and go through the formalities of that. But you can offer it to the people who are on the small works roster, take quotes, and award a contract in a more informal fashion. So my thought would be that you could go up to $300,000 in that, where that blank is. You could go anywhere between that. If you wanted to, 300,000 might sound like a large number, and therefore you want, you know, have something smaller in there. But I think that would be kind of the max, and I've seen that in these delegations before. So to the board, but that was my thinking, is that you probably shouldn't go over 300, because when a contract is formally bid, it comes back to the board for an award of the lowest responsible to that reporting obligation, so there is kind of a check and balance.
Have you run into any issues, limits, like I said, 300 kind of, it seemed high to me at first, but I understand why that is there. Have you run into any amounts that high that?
We have not done any public works to speak of, contracts, that I can think of since I've been here that would be anywhere near that amount. But I'm thinking that if you're going to maybe do a partial remodel of a station or something like that, and then we put it in the budget, it would allow me to move forward with that without necessarily having to come back to the board at every step. So, we haven't had that happen yet, but, I think the potential is probably there.
So again, we're just talking about items that have already been put into the budget. You've already decided this needs to be done this fall.
Right.
The question is, should that come back to the board for approval, or can the chief just run with that?
Yeah, and then the next item to that would be cost overruns by a percentage.
Right, and I kind of think that a reasonable percentage there would be somewhere 10 to 20% range. I don't think it.
15 is probably normal.
Yeah, I think 15 would be within the range of reasonableness.
I think the fact that it's already sort of a pre-approved and budgeted item gives the chief the ability to do the business that needs to be done. If it were something brand new that you came up with and said, hey,
Emergency?
well, emergency is different, but just say they've got a plan and they decide that they wanna maybe remodel a station that we haven't talked about. And it wasn't talked about in the budget, and the chief wants to spend $300,000 on something that we haven't discussed. I think that would be something I would like to hear about before, but if it's already been presented in the annual budget, we've approved it, the chief's now just trying to get the work done, I'm perfectly happy with that happening.
And yeah, I think emergency public works contracts covers those emergency times, or all of a sudden we gotta call a contractor out to
Right.
do something that's, and then when, I think it talks in here about, what you're saying, Commissioner Hansel, just items acquired for operations, materials, things. For instance, I'll give you a good example. We have a policy that the board approved a while back on gross decontamination and all that. And along with that policy, we have a directive on how to do those things. And within that directive, we talk about a program for decontaminating your turnouts. And part of that program is that we develop a program to get everybody 2 sets of turnouts eventually. Part of that process is to buy probably 5 to 6 sets of turnouts for people who are expiring this year. And then every 5, since turnouts are good for 10 years, every 5 years someone will get a new set of turnouts, so they're always alternating and have 2 pairs. Well, to get that program off the ground, we need to start this year. And that's about $20,000 that we didn't budget for in the budget for that. So that's something I would bring to the board and say, hey, we have this program we want to put in place. It wasn't budgeted for. Here's where the money is that we could use for that. But you would, I would expect you to approve that so we can move forward. I wouldn't just do that on my own. And I think this kind of covers that, and makes it very clear that those kinds of things come before the board. So that's my example anyway.
So I'm hearing in 2.1.1, the 300,000 figure, and 2.2.2, 15%. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
John, you have any input on this? Feelings one way or the other? Okay, any more discussion, or are we ready to move forward?
The only thing I noticed on the news the other night, a truck went through front door of a business, and something had to be done pretty quick there. I don't know that we'd ever be in that position, but we might have something similar to a truck going through a business, you know, with our equipment. But most of this money probably involved in like material or repairs.
In an emergency type of situation? Yeah, I think it would be to stabilize whatever's going on. So if you need to stabilize something that's happening to a fixed facility or whatnot, say, you know, the septic's backing up or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's not to say we need to redesign the septic system and we're just gonna spend the money to do that now in an emergency. No, we would stabilize this whatever it costs to do that, and that gives me the authority to do that, I think.
Yeah.
And then we could move forward from there with board approvals if we needed.
Okay.
Right, the way we have it in 2.1.2 is if there's emergency, there's no dollar limit there, but the chief is authorized to declare the emergency. What would normally happen is you have to convene a special meeting of the board, declare an emergency, and an emergency is an exempt, it is a basis for exempting yourself from the public works statutes. In this case, what you're doing is you're saying, fire chief, you get to make the decision. There's an emergency, you have to move quickly to prevent further loss of life or property damage, and you can enter into contracts as need be, but you gotta come back to the board at the next regular board meeting, have the board ratify that there was an emergency and the action has been taken, so.
Yeah. So if we had to, you know, contract heavy equipment or something like that, that'd be a good example.
Yeah.
I'm happy with everything I've heard so far.
Okay, so if we, the motion to approve 2018-11 would include that the figure listed in the last sentence of 2.1.1 would read, but in no case in excess of $300,000. It would also read in 2.2.2, in the middle of that paragraph, does not exceed the amount authorized in that specific budgetary line item by 15% of the budgeted item. Is that correct? All right. Is there someone who would like to make that motion?
I will move to approve resolution 2018-11, fire chief financial authority, with the inserted numbers.
Is there a second?
Second,
Any further discussion?
no.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimously approved.
Thank you, commissioners.
Any other new business? I've got one suggestion. On the way over here, I went by one of our stations that's seldom used, and it looks pretty bad. And I'm thinking, at what point are we gonna move forward and discuss whether or not we need to possibly sell one of our stations? It's a discussion we've said before, we're probably gonna have to move in that direction, so maybe something we should start thinking about. And, I'm thinking Haney Station.
Well, we can certainly take care of the way it looks right away, get that taken care of for you, and then the commissioners, obviously, if you wanna decide, or if you wanna sell certain properties, I'd be happy to help, get input to that.
What kind of response we got on that station?
That's something we have to look at. If we wanna go down that road, we would have to start asking questions like, how many people are involved, what kind of responses involved, what is it costing us versus just keeping it, or we should at least have a discussion.
And there's a lot of other factors too, you know, there's the, the insurance factors, there's, the response radiuses, those kind of things that we need to probably look at district-wide, and I know we've talked about it before, it's in our strategic plan to look at those things. But I would just caution caution us against doing anything rash without studying all those things, because we don't wanna end up having to sell a station and then rebuild another one,
Right.
right, next to it or something, when we find out that there isn't a need there. But we do have responders out of that station. There's a few, I think there's about three or four maybe,
Yeah.
that respond water tenders, and out of that station, there's a water tender, and there's an engine there. But as far as response out of that area specifically, there's maybe 5 to 6 calls a month out of the Haney station. But we do have apparatus, we have people who respond there to grab apparatus to help assist in other parts of the district. This would be something that would be part of a bigger study, I think. Yeah.
Would, we want like 3-person committee or somebody to study that or not? All the different points, you bring them before the board? Because there's gonna be a lot of points.
Yeah, I can tell you that the volunteers at 68 are very, well, how should I say this? Very protective of Station 65 and all their apparatus and everything. And, I mean, we just moved an apparatus and we almost had a riot on our hands. So we have to kind of go gingerly with our volunteers about that, because there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of people who've been around a long time who see change not as easy as others. And so I think there's that component of it too, that we would need to prepare people for.
Excuse me, I think it would be an easier sell if you had a district-wide plan as to
Yeah.
what we're gonna do with our stations, and if we're gonna move the headquarters station, and what the future development prospects look like. So like a big GIS study with response times.
Correct, yeah. That would be what my recommendation would be. That way we can look at everything as a system,
Yeah.
instead of just individual
Right.
stations that we see, we go, do we really need that or not? So, you know, we are supposed to be keeping up on the landscaping and maintenance of those facilities, and I believe that the volunteers are taking care of 65 and 68 right now currently.
They're mowing out there.
They're doing all the mowing work now, the volunteers are, so we've been talking about that, get that fixed up. Until such time as we can put together a study to find out what the overall recommendations would be. And something that I've also been considering is the possibility of hiring a consultant to come help us with these issues. That someone from the outside that can come in and say, here's the improvements you need to make, or here's what you need to do. Sometimes someone coming in from the outside is digested a lot better than
Right.
us trying to set that, so.
I guess if we're gonna, and I'm not saying that we need to sell the station, I'm saying, if the station looks like it's abandoned when we drive by, let's either clean it up, be proud of it, or let's sell it, you know? If we're gonna use it, let's make it look like it's used. When you go by now, it looks like an abandoned building, so.
Which brings me to my drive-by Station 13 yesterday, and was curious. Are you guys thinking about the Agate Bay Station 11 and 13? Have you guys got a,
11 is such a problematic type thing, because it would be hard to sell. Nobody could use it for anything, so it's a conundrum. What
the
you have to do
restaurant
with that,
want to buy
you know?
it for parking?
We don't even have, we could sell it for parking, yeah. That would be the only thing to that restaurant across the street. Right, and then you're gonna have, the equipment that's in there has to be moved to somewhere else, you know, also.
Yeah, we talked about this just recently, at a commissioner meeting with District Board, and, my recommendation was to start looking at Station 11 and 13 as far as what you wanna do with those. I know that they just approved, roof repairs at Station 13, because it's gonna need it anyway, to be able to sell it, you're gonna have to repair the roofs, so, they're putting some money into that. But, again, yeah, I mean, District Board a little different because of the contract, but, they have some different, some needs there, but, I think they're looking, you guys are looking at that, that's one of the things that we're working on for them.
So do we want to kind of set maybe a goal, a timeline, or something where we would maybe complete
think it'd be very difficult for us to do it in-house, get all the information, compile it, do all that. I would have to meet with my staff and discuss, you know, what we're gonna need to get some project like that off the ground, but, I would need time to sit down and think about how to approach it, whether or not we do it ourselves or we get help from the outside, but it is something that has always been on our radar, we keep wanting to get it done. However, we're overwhelmed on a daily basis with just issues of the day.
Sure.
So it's hard to see visionary things, but I think with maybe some help or some help from the board, we can get that moving. I think we've already done some preliminary work. We're getting ready to meet with the evaluation folks from the state that came and did our rating, so we can find out from them what their take is on our stations and placement, and whether or not getting rid of the station will help or hinder us on our grading. We've also initiated some GIS work to look at response times, different response radiuses out of our stations, but I don't know if we've got any information back on that yet. So we've started a few things, but we've been obviously sidetracked with a lot of emergency stuff, so it hasn't been on our radar 100%.
Where are we getting the GIS data, or who's doing that?
We're working with the city of Bellingham to get some of that data for us. We have some existing data that we got from a gentleman we used to contract with. What was his name?
Mike Price.
Mike Price. Over the years, he has some data as well, so we're kind of using both. And Henry is the one that's most versed in it. And he's the one that's been kind of heading that up. He was here today, I'm sure he can give you an update on it, but that's what we're using.
Chief Winchester, I think I saw in your notes that you attended some Bellingham GIS meetings. Are they studying their jurisdiction as well, or is that overlap into like 12's area, or what was that?
It's based on dispatch. So what they're able to do is take our history of dispatch and plot that into our fire district.
Mhm.
And that's what we're working on now. And they can plot it into our fire blocks and show us what we've done in the past. So they're actually in the process trying to develop that map for us now, so we can get that and have a look at it, have a visual of what our history is and all types of responses and times.
Do we have a sort of a timeline on when that might be accomplished?
I wish I could tell you that. I initiated that effort about 2 months ago now, through Chief Wilson at the City of Bellingham, and also with Connie Turner, who works in the GIS department. And I'm not exactly sure where they are. We've been communicating as of today, where that project is, and we have an answer yet. So I'm hopeful that we get some information back here in the next couple of weeks. If that doesn't turn out the way we need to, we can look at some alternatives.
I would love to talk about with the commission at maybe at a different time, or even, you know, at a time you feel comfortable with. I'd love to talk about bringing somebody in to do a district-wide evaluation of everything. Our operations, our responses, our station placements, our apparatus, and you know, have somebody come in and say, here's where you need to fix things, here's what my suggestion would be for this, that, and the other. Rather than us trying to figure it out, and it probably won't be accepted as well if there's a lot of changes that need to happen with the rank and file, as if it's coming from another professional place. So that's just something I'd like to be able to talk about before we get too involved
Right.
in doing it.
And I didn't mean to open a can of worms.
We can mow that lawn, it's no problem.
Well, that actually came to my mind, is that an outside agency, I love that idea of them coming in and looking at it. They may look at it and they may say, you know what, you'd save a lot of money just by hiring a landscape service to make all your stations look really presentable in the long run. That'd probably be a lot cheaper and save a lot of angst among, because I understand volunteers that love that station or any other station do the same thing in Enterprise. Those guys, they love that place. We know, you know, this is a very emotional type thing. But I have to explain to taxpayers when they go by, Why does that place look like that? And do you
Well,
use it?
I would suggest, that anytime a commissioner goes by and sees a station that's, please give me a call, please give me a call right away, and we'll get it taken care of. We obviously can't be everywhere all the time, especially those out of the way volunteer stations, we don't get by them very often. But we do have assignments made to take care of those stations, and, if we need to get a crew out there to take care of it, we'll get it done, so, yeah, and that goes for anything a commissioner might see on their travels. If they see something that looks a little wacky or wanky, just, give me a call, or Chief Newchester a call, and let us know what's going on. That way we can get on top of those things. We don't have battalion chiefs, in our district, who are managers that can get around and see those things. All of our managers are stationed at stations, and then just, there's us, and that's it. So we don't get out as much as we can, even though we try to get to stations and visit them a lot. We don't get to all those places to keep track of that stuff, so some of that stuff that's out of sight gets out of mind,
City of Blaine did, with their police department, they did something similar to that. Just came out with a big report.
Yeah.
Searching for the new fire chief.
They did an overall consultative report on the police department, that's what I heard, and they made suggestions and recommendations to the whole department to make some wholesale changes.
Do we know how much they paid to do that?
I do not.
It's really hard for any of us to be totally unbiased.
Yeah.
That's why it's nice to get somebody from the outside. I like your idea of coming in and looking at everything, not only station placement, but stations, personnel, operations, the whole thing. It'd be interesting to see what kind of costs would be involved.
Yeah, I could do some research on that and have something at the next board meeting for us, we can put it on the agenda.
Okay.
Is that all right?
You agree?
Yeah, if you could come back with, maybe not complete, but at least a start of potential vendors or whoever is out there that would do this kind of work.
There are ones out there, in my past experiences, in another fire department, I've been through a similar process with an outside consultant. That was more of a, comparison of two departments, and if it made sense to merge together. But there are public safety type consultants out there that will do that work.
But I don't want the ones that come in and ask you what you like, and then the report says exactly.
No, we don't want that. You're right, yeah. I've heard stories about that too. No, we don't want yes people. We want the plain facts and whatever data we can give them and help them out in any way we can.
Very objective.
Yeah, there's not an end goal that we're trying to get them to get to. We're going to pay some consultant to come in and say that. Well, we want a fresh look at it, and we want to rip the Band-Aid off and say, hey, where do we need to make improvements?
Yeah.
We want the
I would like
criticism.
to
Yeah.
see that.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No,
I was just thinking something we need to look at.
no, it's unfortunate we don't have the resources to be able to do more than just keep our head above water.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to bring up? For new business, okay? Policy, procedures, anything?
No, initially we were going to have the resident policy, but I was on vacation when we were kind of trying to finalize that, so we need to go back to the drawing board, look at a couple things on there. There's a couple questions some commissioners had as well, so we want to address those before we bring it back to the board, so you'll see that next month. And as a side note, we do plan on starting our resident program next month around August 1st. We already have 2 that have made it through the process, new residents that we're going to be training, and we hope to get some more, so that will be coming into effect.
Chief, in that policy, just a question, it talked about them having to commit to 2 24-hour shifts. I was just curious how we're gonna cover all the shifts.
Maybe that's a better question for Chief Newchester, because he's the one who basically put that policy together.
Right.
Yeah, our goal is to provide training for these folks and also in lieu of rent payment, they work back in the fire district. So there's no money exchanging hands for rent for their residency. And a assigning them to a specific shift so that they have some accountability there. And, part of that is working some shift work, so. And what we've found in the past is, they do go to school during the week, and they commute up and back to Skagit, but they have been able to pull shifts also, and, work through weekend or overnight to get this done.
And so how is it staffed the rest of the time? I mean, if we only have 2, 3, 4 residents, how is the staffing managed? Is it?
That station?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not very consistent, quite honestly. It is just not, just because of the sheer math of it all.
Mhm.
But it gets covered definitely better than we have now. But because of the number, we don't have enough space to put everybody and to get enough people to cover all.
How many residents are in there?
4 to 5 would be ideal for us. If we were to get to 5, we can manage that logistically really well. We have 2 more online coming up this fall, so we'll get to 4 by the end of the year. And then a lot of it's cyclical with the schedule of the school. But we have a couple more that should be coming by this fall to get to 4.
I wrote Rich an email earlier in the week about the state and the hours.
Right.
How are we gonna take care of that? I saw the policy for the resident, but overall, how are we gonna take care of that?
As far as making sure that we stay under.
Stay within the parameters of the state, because I don't know what the parameters are, I haven't seen them in quite a while.
70, it's 70 hours a month.
Is it?
Yeah, it have to be under 70 hours a month, is what the state, Department of Labor says. There are departments that work on way over that, and there are that, and they've gotten in trouble for that.
Right, and that's what I don't want us to.
But we
fall into.
have always followed the law, and with our volunteers, and we have actually, to our detriment, because they've gone other places to work more hours instead of staying with us because we are following the law. So we don't intend to work them over the slotted amount of hours that per month that are required by the state DOL, because it only takes one phone call, a complaint to them, for them to come do an investigation of us and find out that we have employees that look like part-time employees that should be at FERS, right? So we're going to revisit the policy because of your question and look at that and make sure that we're keeping those folks under those amount of hours.
Right, because you're correct, all it takes is one phone call.
Yeah. And it's
Somebody
not-
thinks there's a full-time employee and it opens up another can of worms.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking those questions, I just don't want to see that happen.
Yeah, we have to be very cautious how we do it, but we also have to take some chances in the policy and just say, hey, this is what we'd like you to do. Anytime you tell somebody they have to work a specific shift or a specific time, that looks like a part-time employee. So we have to be cautious about that as well. So we need to go back and look at the policy and make sure we're within those guidelines, and that's one of the reasons why I pulled it from this meeting, because we need to have all that figured out before we come back. And we have a good idea of what we want to do. They're gonna pull some shift work with the full-time folks so they can get their training, and then there'll be times when they're at the station where they will be available for response. We don't know how much or how long that's gonna be. The more residents we get, the more coverage we'll have, but we wanna get something up there at Simeon, and this is the beginning, the baby steps of that program. Yeah.
So the reason I ask is I want to see this, flourish instead of fail.
Yeah. Well, the first 2 residents we have are top-notch. Top-notch folks, I think you're gonna do really well for us.
Good.
And Skagit starts back up in September like everybody else, or?
Probably August, September, yeah.
I think that's semester and quarters.
I'm not sure what they are.
Semester will be in August.
Yeah, the goal is to get them going with us in August to prepare them for school. I believe it is September. It is a dry schedule. Yeah.
Well, a couple of them are locals, right? One of them is local, Blaine County. Both of them live up here, the first 2. So we're hoping to draw some Skagit folks, but that is quite a haul, and we've had issues with it in the past. We used to have a resident program at 62 many years ago, I understand, and that was one of the reasons why it didn't work out, because it was just too far for the students to have to drive back and forth. So we're trying to get more local folks as well involved in it.
Question? All right, and that'll be on the new business correspondence, you had a copy of any questions or comments on that?
None here.
Next meeting, August 16th. Open day. Interfere with stress.
Grabbing's open right now.
Not birthday.
No, it's not.
No.
Oh.
You better go.
That was
You
crap.
better go play pots.
Well, I was in Bellingham.
Bellingham opened on July.
I was there that day, well, that was crazy.
Yeah.
So are you suggesting another date?
No, no, I just say I'll set my pots in the morning.
John, works for you?
Yeah, it works for me.
Larry?
It works for me.
Okay, so we have our agenda items for the rest of the right?
So
Go pull the pots.
We'll have policy for the residents next meeting, before the board. We'll have some information on, a consultant to the district. Anything else? So any other policies we have pending?
Okay, yeah, then we will break for executive session at 1:40, and I expect we'll be back by 2:15. Chief, you gotta be enough time, or?
2:15.
2:15, okay. Take us off.
Just before you go, you should just make sure you state the reason.
Oh, yes.
In the statutory.